From the high banks of Daytona to the autumn-tinted countryside of Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin to the trio of tracks in the Carolinas, Outsider Racing League's fall season rages on. For the last round of the month of October, ORL heads to Sparta, Kentucky for its sixth round of the season. And with a road course on the schedule in Georgia next round, drivers who are deep in the points battle seek a victory at an intermediate track to try to give themselves an advantage before the 12-turn road course negates it in 2 weeks' time on November 7th. Welcome to SimTV. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by Eric Mickey as we get ready to go racing for a 140-lap round number 6 from Kentucky Motor Speedway. Eric, welcome back to SimTV. Exciting to have you back here for the Daddy's Fried Chicken 140 from Kentucky Motor Speedway. 140 laps around this newly reconfigured Kentucky. There's a lot to talk about tonight, but first of all, welcome back to oval racing here on SimTV and to ORL with a 30-plus car grid.
Yeah, it's good to be back. This is definitely one of the better stock car leagues out there as far in terms of regular competition and attendance. And here they are tonight at Kentucky, newly resurfaced, only released earlier this year. So a lot of these guys might not even have many laps on it. It's going to be a learning process for all of us as we go through the night, trying to figure out what the tires are doing on these cars. The drivers will be trying to figure that out too, whatever they weren't able to accomplish throughout practice. So right now we're in the middle of qualifying, and looks like it's going to be close.
Qualifying underway right now. This is a Dash for Cash round, which means there are 5 drivers that are eligible for extra prize money. They will earn $30 if they win the race under green flag conditions, and they are as follows. Jeremy Miller in the number 30, Reggie Ortega in the number 2, AJ Stravato in the 33, the 12 of Matt Burgess is one of the other drivers, and make sure that you keep an eye out for all of those drivers tonight. They will have a green number on the side of their cars, as you see the 48 of Jeff Wright, who currently sits on provisional pole rolling down pit lane. Zach Halpern in the number 26 has a green number. He is not eligible for the Dash for Cash prize. Adam Cabot in the 77 out here in the Simply Pest Control car. And if you think back to a couple weeks ago at Rockingham, Adam Cabot almost won. He ended up losing out to Brennan Bowers in the number 31, who got his first ORL victory. And I think Cabot would like to come back and get himself another win this season as he comes across the line for his qualifying effort. 29.548. That will put him about 9th on the grid. So have a look here at our racetrack information here, Eric. Constructed in 2000, a relatively new speedway and no longer the NASCAR schedule. The recent changes to the track have made it, in some people's eyes, less interesting. But tonight, I think with a 30-plus car grid, it's going to be a pretty fun race to watch.
Yeah, I think for the opening laps and probably even on these qualifying laps, depending on what the setup is like for these drivers, they're going to be close to full throttle all the way around, if not for the first couple laps. And that's also going to be key when it comes to taking care of your tires, is how hard do you push it in trying to keep track position staying up front versus trying to save tires from the very beginning and making sure that you have grip towards the end of the run.
Kentucky Speedway cost $153 million to produce. It was built again in the year 2000. Again, I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Eric Mickey tonight. If you'd like to watch live timing and scoring to follow along with your favorites, you can do that at simtvbroadcasting.com/timing to get up-to-date information, pit stop information, and more, including lap times, running order, etc. On our website, simtvbroadcasting.com/timing. You can find that link in the video description, I believe, in the video description as well. And AJ Stravato across the line, 29.463, jumps up to 4th, but Jeff Wright, currently provisional pole sitter. Let's talk a little bit as we get ready to grid here. Keys to the race today, Eric. I am going to talk mainly about the new surface tricks. This is a new pavement, a new surface, and it's going to be a little funky. Think to Texas Motor Speedway as well, how much the pavement alone changed the dynamics of that racetrack.
Yeah, that made that track really one groove, and this track might be seeing a little bit similar of that tonight, but the little bit more banking, whereas opposed to Texas, where turn 1 and 2 have been flattened, and turn 3 and 4 have maintained their banking. Kentucky, when this was reconfigured, the banking was upped a little bit all the way around for both ends of the track. It's going to be very wide open, very fast racetrack here tonight for these drivers, and hanging on to it's going to be key.
And our other 2 keys to the race tonight, feeling tired. We don't know what the tires are going to do here tonight. A new surface, a track that we have not been to that many times. So tire management will be something we're going to be following all night long. And starting over, the restarts tonight, if we get cautions, the restarts are going to be 2, 3, maybe 4 wide off into turn number 1. So that will be something we will follow all night long. Again, Daddy's Fried Chicken 140. This race sponsored by Alex Bell in the number 15 car, who is sort of in the middle of your screen here. We'll get a better look at his car. He's got the Daddy's Fried Chicken and the diecast dude on the side of that machine. Let's roll through our starting grid here, Eric. Let's alternate rows. Let's go backwards, and I'll start row number 1. Jeff Wright in the number 48 starts on the first row, right alongside the 20 of Bryce Calusa.
Third place is Zach Halpern, and our point leader in fourth place, number 33 of AJ Stravato.
AJ Stravato rolls off in fourth place tonight. In fifth, Zach Floyd's number 42, and Jonathan Hernandez in the number 1. He starts in 6 on the outside of that third row.
Seventh place rolling off will be Joshua Banks in the number 36, and Matthew Close on his outside in the number 92.
In row number 5, Brian Chambliss in the number 9. Alex Bell in the number 15 starts in 10th in his Sim TV number 15 Camry.
Starting 11th place is going to be potentially one of the favorites tonight. The number 77 of Adam Cabot. On his outside is going to be Angelo Horonis.
Andrew Telganoff starts 13th, and Sam Devontier, the number 99, rolls off 14th on the outside of row number 7.
Matt Burgess will be coming at you from 15th position with Bailey Turner in the number 24 on his outside in 16th.
17th place, Caleb Weekly in the number 10, and Reggie Ortega, returning to ORL this week, starts 18th in the number 2.
Next row is full of juniors with David Mott Jr. in the number 4 and Tim Downey Jr. in the number 25.
And we'll let the rest of these scroll along the bottom of the field, another 5 or 6 rows to roll through as the field is peeling off and heading down towards pit out on our pace laps here at Kentucky. Going to be doubling up the field and going racing for 140 laps. Now this race, if it goes green from start to finish, Eric, about an hour and 8 minutes of time. How green do we expect this race to be? This track is relatively wide. These guys don't really wreck all that much. Do we think we'll see a pretty green race, or do you think we'll have a rash of yellows at the start?
I'm thinking we'll hopefully see a pretty green race. As you mentioned, the track is very wide. There's a lot of different ways you can attack these corners, and I don't think they're exactly sure where the grip is going to be as the race develops over time. So I think for at least the first few laps, there's going to be options to run inside, outside. Potentially, I'm sure we'll see some 3 wide somewhere along the way, and as long as they have those options, they're not going to be fighting, hopefully, for the same positions and running into each other.
So the field doubling up and getting ready to go racing for 140 laps, our 6th round of the season. Next week, happy Halloween. We'll see you on November 7th for Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for our 7th round of the season. I am so excited to see how the stock cars race on the 12-turn, 2.5-mile road course in Braselton, Georgia. But tonight we're on a 1.5-mile, 4-turn oval. Kentucky Motor Speedway, green flag flies, and we're racing in the Outsider Racing League round number 6. Jeff Wright brings them down to the green flag.
Very good start for Jeff Wright in that 48. Has a big lead, but I think by the time they get to turn 3, the draft and that big spoiler on the back of these cars is going to pull the rest of the field right back to them.
Yeah, good start for Jeff Wright, but you talked about the spoiler and the size of it. I think in the opening couple laps, we're going to see a lot of NASCAR-style, well, that makes sense, plate racing-style racing down through turns 3 and 4. Up the inside, that's the 36 of Joshua Banks leaning on the 1 car of Hernandez, brings him up the racetrack. There's the 92 of Matthew Close and the 9 of Chambliss with the 77 of Cabot. He was just runner-up at Rockingham. He wants to get a win, another one this season. He runs in 10th.
Right now, you can already see there are 2 pretty equal lines right now, but it's a matter of some of these drivers favoring that inside line. It's the shortest distance around the track, and right now they're probably mostly full throttle around the track throughout the corners, so the shorter distance is going to be the one that pays off.
I think the bottom side of the racetrack will be the place to be all night long. You see the 9 of Brian Chambliss. He's middle 3 wide with the 77 on the bottom. The 15 of Alex Bell. He tried to make it 4 wide, thought better of it, tucks in behind the 92 down into turn number 1. Now he's got nowhere to go with 3 abreast in front of him through that first corner.
Yeah, I don't think many people were expecting to see quite that wide of racing room here at Kentucky, but they all made it happen and made it work for all of them to come out of there in one piece.
And it's still a really tight field. This is typically what we've seen on intermediate racing this year is the starts and restarts, everyone's kind of condensed together. But once you get past the first 5 or 10 laps, everyone starts to spread out, and then you get a bit more natural flow to the racing, especially once the tires burn off. And that's my big concern. One of our keys to the race tonight was feeling tired. How long will those tires last? And are we going to see a lot of tire wear on these relatively new surface? As we look deeper in the field, there is the number 10 of Caleb Weekly. He's getting swamped on either side by the 99 of Sam Devontier, and on the bottom, Bailey Turner in the 24.
Another 3 wide action coming off of turn 4. Very wide. They have all the space to use they could possibly want. So they should be able to get through this just fine. Going into turn 1, I think that bottom line or the middle is going to be the one that comes out on top.
There's Tim Downey Jr., previous champion in this series. The last couple seasons have not been where he probably is deserved to be, but right now back in 19th place. Again, we started the race with 30 drivers. Jeremy Miller did not take the green flag, and he was a Dash for Cash competitor, so unfortunately he will not get a chance to run. Hopefully he's all right as we see another 3-wide bit back here with Casey Lakatos up the middle, getting a push from behind from the 46. That is being, that's 46 on the car, but on the timing is somebody different.
Yeah, I think this is the part of the field that are really struggling because they have to go, they have to push, they have to make up as many positions as they can to better set themselves up for the second half of the run and the later parts of the run here and better their chances for later on. But you've also got to take care of those tires so that you have something to fight with later on. But the battle is closing up as the 26 of Zach Halpern has caught the 48. He's on his bumper. Is he going to wait to make a move or potentially just try to take the lead away as soon as he gets there?
I think he'll try to take it away. You saw Joshua Banks trying to get by AJ Stravato. They almost wrecked each other. As you see the front two going at it here. Eric for nose to tail, and Halpern might lean on the 48 a bit more here out of turn 4.
Halpern is really pushing it. He's on the inside of the 48, trying to take this lead away down into turn 1. Question is, will Jeff Wright back off and just kind of let him have it and then come back at him later, or is he going to fight him?
Looks like it's not going to get a choice, as Halpern should clear Jeff right here and slot up in front of him. He'll leave the lane open. Now turn to the right to block. You see a bit of right front damage on that car from some contact. And Halpern going to try to drive away now, and he's a little tight coming out of turn 4. Got to watch that exit wall. And behind him, looks like Joshua Banks is having a solid run. He's up to 3rd, and Alex Bell also coming forward here early in the going. His home race here.
Challenging.
Back for the top spot.
Pretty aggressive move to get underneath him going down into turn 1. He wants that lead back if they come out of turn 2, side by side.
Down the back straightaway, 48-26. I know that Jeff Wright's having some internet issues as well, which is not making this easy, but Joshua Banks is driven into the picture as well, and he'd like a shot at the top spot with Halpern drawing the long way around here as they come to lap number 10.
Yeah, this is the best thing those guys in 3rd on back could have been hoping for. The leaders getting side by side, creating a huge hole in the air that is just pulling them all up beside him. As Banks flips down low on the 48, isn't able to get there. 48 is going to try to make a run off of turn 2 on Halpern down the backstretch.
Sailing by the cameras off into turn number 3. The front 5, front 10, all nose to tail. 77 to Cabot, a little slow through 3 and 4. That's going to let the one of Hernandez go the long way around. Squeeze up the outside of the 42 as Zach Floyd as Halpern chases the bumper of the 48 all the way down to the apron in turn number 1. The 42 getting busy behind, trying to keep the 1 back there.
Some good outside driving there from the 1 car that was able to make that pass happen as they're 3 wide now down the backstretch. Heading into turn 3, cleared up back to 2 wide, and the 1 is clear of both of them.
They're chasing each other around a lot, which is making me nervous. That's always a potential for incidents. As we come around to complete lap number 11, the 42, actually I think that's the 1 car now. Yes, it is the 1 of Jonathan Hernandez, making that car wide, and the front 4 have broken away now from Stravato on forward. As you see the 29 of Ronis jumping up here. He started in 12th. He's up 4 spots to 8th.
Yeah, right now back in the pack, everyone's just doing what they can to catch that group of 4 up at the front. As we see some more troubles with the 48's connection, it looks like, but he's okay, still on track.
And they will ask you to leave the pack if you are creating an extended disturbance, so he better hope that gets corrected at some point. Otherwise, he will be asked to drop out of this lead battle. We go back to that middle group from 5th on back. Hernandez actually make that, yeah, it is Hernandez, Cabot, Floyd, Ronis, and Moore. It looks like Hernandez is actually broken free and kind of straddling those 2 big packs at the front.
Yeah, Floyd in that 42, he hasn't been able to find a place to just ride in complete laps. He seems to be under attack every corner since the start of this race. Always has somebody looking on his outside, and of course, when you have someone on your outside at the exit of these corners, you're not able to regain the momentum you need, and that just opens up the door for the cars further behind. So he right now is getting a little bit of freight train. Banks almost gets into the back of the 48 going into turn 1. He wants that second position.
He is right there as well, and Stravato is knocking on the door. He's going to look for a third. Bit of a block by Banks. He moves left. Stravato back to the right off into turn 3, almost leaning on each other as they get down there. Stravato is currently the points leader. He has not won a race this season. Jeff Wright has, Bailey Turner has, Brennan Bowers has, Adam Cabot has, and Connor Horn has won 2. Horn is not here tonight, but it's been a pretty wild season with wins spread around all over the column, but the points leader has not yet gotten one. That's got to be on his mind after winning a couple races last season.
Yeah, it's always something you want to do. You want to get in victory lane, but at the same time, he has a 28-point lead over second place, and actually second and third are tied 28 points back. So there's not too much feeling down about yourself you can do when you know you've been outrunning everybody behind you by 28 points worth. But I have noticed over the last couple laps, as we are now 15, 16 laps into this run, these cars are starting to get tight and then break loose on the exit, particularly off of turn 4. They're getting really tight, getting up close against that wall, and you can see that the cars are they're having to catch the car a little bit as they break loose at the last second with all that steering input from having been tight for most of the corner. So that's going to be something to look out for tonight as we continue to run under green flag conditions here.
Joshua Banks is going to have to give over the spot to AJ Stravato, but we saw it last time by as they came on the front straight with this big bump here on the apron. Watch Stravato right here. Car's going to jump. I don't think he hit it quite as hard that time. There's a massive bump down there on the apron, and he almost got airborne the last time through. So we got to be really cautious of that upsetting the race car, but they're letting the front two start to pull away as Banks and Stravato battle for third.
Just shows you the accuracy of iRacing, because earlier this year in the NASCAR Cup Series, we saw that bump.
Oh, there goes the 36 of Banks!
Hernandez, sorry about that.
Banks had a big moment sideways after the 77 sailed down the inside, and it's getting real congested here as everyone checks up to get around him. And Banks will go. This is very much, you were just saying about how much real life it is. You get one little moment, and it's going to send you 10 spots backwards. That's exactly what happened. Bell didn't lift. He's gained a couple spots up to 6 now and slams it over on the 29.
Absolutely, and as I was saying, that bump down the backstretch played a huge role in the finish of the NASCAR Cup Series race in real life just a few months ago. If you remember that, 4 wide for the lead down the front stretch, contact between Ryan Blaney and Kevin Harvick caused some issues there, and it was all because they hit that bump. And so that's something to look out for later on as later on, if we get cautions, we get restarts late in the race, people looking for all the real estate, that bump's probably going to come into play and could cause some havoc for these drivers.
Ronis and the 42 of Zach Floyd right on top of each other now as the 20 of Bryce Calusa and the 6 of Andrew Telganoff knocking on the door. They'd like to get a little higher up inside the top 10. Halpern continues to lead. Telganoff goes a long way around. This is a driver, a dark horse maybe, in that number 6. He is always a threat. He has not won in this series in quite some time, and I think tonight would be a good night to do it. He's gone up from 13th to 8th. Give him the entire race and keep him out of trouble, and I think the 6 car is good enough to win.
Yeah, maybe, especially with the troubles that this track seems to be causing these drivers right now. They're not major, but they're going to be small little things that are going to bite you if you're not prepared to face them.
A little bit more action going on back here. The 64, Ben Lafter, sailing on past the 46 to Steve Turner. Turner in a new number this week with that 46 car, and there is also Matt Wagner back there in the 18. Russell Arnold in the 34, the 4 car of David Mott Jr. This is all the way back here for 23rd and 24th. There's racing all over the track right now, especially right now for about 10th spot from Ronis on back. Whoa, car on the wall on the high side. That looks to be No, it's Matt Burgess. No, who is that? 92? No, that is the 30. So it looks like Jeremy Miller has actually joined the race 10 laps down middle. Going to squeeze the 36 on the bottom of the racetrack. And there's a touch again. The 92 goes for a slide. So does the 30.
Somehow he's able to save it. I think what we're seeing there is he must have come on track as they've been under green flags. So his tires are relatively new, and he's been able to run up on through this field. He's going to be all over these guys. Their tires are a lot older than his are at the moment.
Yeah, and again,
twice as old.
He's already, I would consider him, well, definitely out of the dash for cash just here for fun, I would assume at this point. Cannot make up 10 laps in a race like this. It'll probably go to green. The 6 of Telganoff to chase the 20 up the racetrack in turn number 4. Calusa does not back out. He wants that outside overlap, now tucks in behind.
Very close, hard-fought racing here, and what's impressive is we haven't seen a yellow yet. 23 laps into this race, and the cars are really starting to change their handling characteristics. I think we're seeing that in the way that these drivers are really struggling on the exit of these corners when they're so close to each other.
So now 23 laps in, as you mentioned. I think we're going to start to see the field maybe stretch out a little bit. Halpern's lead has been growing. Jeff Wright, Adam Cabot, AJ Stravato, Jonathan Hernandez, the top 5, then Alex Bell, Floyd, Talganov, Kalusa, and Ronas, the rest of the top 10. Deeper in the field, though, behind Tim Downey Jr., still pretty busy. Sam Devontier, Matt Wagner, Caleb Weekly, and Casey Lakatos fighting for about 19th spot.
I'm not sure right now if these drivers that are sticking to that outside lane are doing so because that's the only place the car is working, or if they think that they found something or holding the wheel a little bit less tight on the inside line is just going to help them save their tires for later. Not sure what the strategy is there, but there's definitely 2 lines here that seem to be viable if you can hit them right. I'm
curious to see how that will change throughout the race. We talked about figuring out this pavement one way or the other. This is new to a lot of people, and I think there's a lot to be learned. Adam Cabot up to 3rd place, and he came from 11th spot, so one of our biggest movers so far, and he is coming to the front as it stands. He's gotten himself in front of points leader AJ Stravato, and Adam Cabot right now in the points is down the ways a little bit. He's 13th in the points, and his season so far was marred by a 23rd place finish at Darlington, even after finishing 5th at Daytona, 1st at Road America, and then 2nd at Rockingham last week. So he's got some making up to do in the points category, and he's going to do it here today, it looks like.
Yeah, he's very strong here tonight, and I think if we can get him into 2nd place, I think he's going to have something to say about the lead with Zach Halpern out there in the 26 car. Kind of driving away, kind of on a little comfortable bit of lead here. Not having to stress anything too hard. I think he's probably just holding on, trying to hold a gap and save his tires to make sure that they last, because you have to be able to react to what other guys do behind you when they start to roll up on green flag pit stops, which we might see here in about another 20 laps or so.
Yeah, about 15 to 20 laps. I'd expect to see drivers hitting pit lane. Good battle here for 9th. Bryce Kalusa has it. Ronas, Chambliss, and Turner all want it. Bailey Turner, another driver that had started off not great in the season, but has kind of come rocketing forward in the points picture as they go 3 wide for a moment. Turner up a couple spots, and his season marred by 22nd, 11th, 21st, 28th, and then 1st and 4th in those last 2 races, so he's figured something out and wants to continue that momentum.
Yeah, looks to be turning around his season after not such a great start.
It was a tricky start to the season as well. We had car counts pretty high, and they still are high tonight. Again, 31 drivers on the racetrack. All 31 that started the race are still running. As we go back to the top spot, because Jeff Wright is trying to reel in Zach Halpern. Whether or not his internet will let him, that's another story. But he is a little bit quicker right now and is knocking on the door of that 26.
He has definitely found something the last lap and a half or 2 laps, and he's been able to close the gap to the 26. Maybe it's the fact that he found that 77 on his rear bumper.
A little bit of battling going on a little bit deeper in the field next to the 25 car. That's for about 20th spot. Matt Wagner's back there. And Wagner will go on through. There's the 30 car Miller still clawing his way through the drivers that he is now about 9 or 10 laps down to. But up front, Halpern now going to have to drive defensively. It's hard to drive defense to a ghost. I thought Halloween was next week, but Jeff Wright is putting on his costume a little early, and it's pretty spooky probably in the mirror, that 26.
Yeah, it's really hard to concentrate, especially when they're gaining on you and closing in on your bumper, and you need to know what you can do to try to extend that gap again. But if they're disappearing here and there, it's really hard to keep track of what exactly they're doing that they're beating you right now, besides having your draft. So a little bit probably frustrating for Halpern not being able to react as well as he would like to the 48's movement, but right now you just got to keep looking ahead and hit the line the way that you can.
And Cabot, you see how much shallower of an entry he's taking, using that track to his advantage. Got the apron there just a little bit. It's going to push the car up the hill, but I'm interested in watching Cabot because he's been doing this line all night where he's kind of diving into the corner and using up that right front tire maybe, but it seems like it's pretty quick.
Don't change it until it stops working is how I'd look at it, and if that's what's getting him to the front, he's obviously not suffering any tire damage or tire wear from it. So if it's working, keep going. It's just a matter of can anybody else realize what he's doing different and capitalize on it by potentially stealing his line.
It's so distracting to have that 48 pippin' and popping all over the place, but Halpern continues to lead out front. He has led so far pretty much most of the laps that we've run since getting by the 48, and here's a look. He has led 25 of the 33 laps, first 8 going to the 48 car.
Stravato, your highest running Dash for Cash car, in 4th place, and he seems to be pretty laid back so far tonight. Not sure if he's just running in 4th because that's the best he can do, or if he knows that it's just not time to go yet.
But it's certainly not time to go yet. He's leading the points. I don't think there's any reason to do anything silly. Again, we talked in the intro about heading to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta as we got a battle for the lead. That's a road course that I think he knows that he might not be the best driver out there, so you might want to play this a bit conservative to kind of establish some points for when we head to the road course in 2 weeks. As the 26
really tight off of turn 2. He's in the wall down the backstretch. Cabot's going to take over 2nd place. Stravato's looking for 3rd place now on the 48 of Jeff Wright.
Yeah, and see that 77, I think, is the quickest car on the racetrack right now. And Jeff Wright has done that a couple times, just kind of overcooked the exit. And Cabot looks like to be the biggest threat this evening, and he almost won at Rockingham last week. So with the nice new chrome on this car and the you see on the dashboard there where it says 77 Cabot, nicely designed there too. New fresh paint and looking pretty fast, just like he was last week. Look at the dive into turn 3. Just gives you the opportunity to get up underneath the driver in front of you and maybe make them think twice before turning in.
Not only that, but you have he's a full, even more so than just a car with on the inside of the 26, which means he's getting all the good air to the front of his car. Downforce is working properly for him. 26 is not taking away any of his downforce through turns 3 and 4. They seem to be running basically the same line through 1 and 2. 77 able to hold it just a slight bit lower. 26 in the wall down the backstretch. Cabot's going to have a run going into turn 3.
Here he goes for the race lead. The 77 of Adam Cabot takes advantage of the missed opportunity by the 77, or excuse me, by the 26, and he will go to the lead. He's not quite clear yet. They're going to drag race to the start-finish line. I think the 26 of Halpern will lead this lap, but just.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time before Cabot overtakes this lead here, as he's going to drive it into turn 1. Isn't able to clear. They're side by side. Now Cabot's going to be able to clear off the exit as the 26 gets too tight to hang on to it. Stravato now has a run on Halpern, 2nd place going into turn 3. Will he be able to complete the pass?
So comers and goers so far today, 48. And now looks like the 26 car as Stravato sets up to take the 26's 2nd place position. I'm also watching another driver creep into the picture. New Sim Motorsports driver, the 15 of Alex Bell. He has joined this team this season, and here he is running inside the top 5. Started in 10th tonight, and is driving forward. I think he outlasted more than he was expecting to after having a wild round at Rockingham. And so far tonight at his home track is coming forward, and he's running faster than the leaders, at least the last time by. So keep an eye on this number 15.
It's his home track. Sponsor of the race is on your car. It's time to make your name known to the rest of the field.
Crowd cheering as we come off of turn number 4, closing in on lap number 40. And you're going to have to start thinking about pit stops. And I always think about races like you would a road course. I always want to know, when's the earliest I can pit that I can go to the end? And I would probably say that's going to be around lap, 90, 85 to 90. That's probably the earliest you could come. And so I'm setting up to try to hit that number, as here's a 31 at Bowers. New fresh winner off of last week at Rockingham, and he's through the 92. That's for 14th place.
Yeah, let's take a look at maybe what kind of fall-off they've had. Their last laps, they're running 31.8 for the top 2, 31.7, 31.8, 31.7 for our top 5 drivers. Their best lap was a 29.7, 29.6, 29.6, and 2 more 6s behind that for the top 5. So they've fallen off quite a bit. That's where I think that hitting as early as you can to make it to the end is maybe not going to pay off, because the fresher tires are going to make a difference later on. But right now, what you got to worry about is making sure that you're going late enough into the race that you're not adding another pit stop versus everybody else onto your schedule for the night. So that's basically the game they're playing now, and I think at this point they're pretty much just waiting for the first driver to make their move to pit lane, and as soon as you see one do it, everyone's going to follow.
Bailey Turner also up inside the top 10 after starting in 16th place, and we mentioned his turnaround, and he continues to make up ground on the 7th place car, Jonathan Hernandez. Going back to 2nd, Stravato's been leaning on the door of the 26, unable to get by. Going back to Brandon Bowers, the incredibly popular win at Rockingham Speedway last week. He has been so fast in qualifying, but has never really been a serious race-winning contender in the final moments of a race. He held off Adam Cabot in exorbitant exorbitantly entertaining fashion last week and got his first Outsider Racing League win tonight. He started 26th, and look, he's already up to 14th, so good climb and new momentum for the 31 car.
Absolutely. Anytime you can beat a name like Adam Cabot, you've got to take that into the next week with all that momentum and show that you've got what it takes to compete here in the ORL.
Cabot, through turn number 1, is beginning to stretch his lead out. Was 2/10 faster than Halpern and Stravato last time by 1/10 faster than Jeff Wright. And about equivalent with Alex Bell, who you see at the back of that shot there. Car almost in the fence. I think that was the 42 of Zach Floyd. New to the series this year. Has been a solid top 10, top 5 contender for most of the races, but I don't think has really gotten the finishes he deserves. And as he tracks up the hill, he's got Andrew Talganoff behind him, who charged forward early but has since kind of failed to make any more progress.
Yeah, I think right now what we've seen is for the last fair amount of laps here, drivers have just been a little bit unable to make any ground up on the cars ahead. They've kind of found their space on the track to run. They're all probably struggling with similar handling issues, whether it's being tight or being snappy loose on exit and adjusting for that through the corners. So I think right now you're just in almost a holding pattern until you start, well, not these guys, Jonathan Hernandez and Bailey Turner side by side off of turn 4 down the front stretch.
Turner continuing that climb forward. AJ Stravato going for second on Zach Halpern, and he's through to move the points leader into the top spot. Remember, if he wins this race, he picks up an extra cash bonus. And for the longest time, having the green number on the side of the car seemed like a curse. No one could win it. But we've had a lot of Dash for Cash drivers win in recent months, so I think Stravato, at least statistics this year, are on his side. As this 26 wants back by, he's going to try as the 48 of Jeff Wright hits pit lane. And this could be our first scheduled pit stops. More drivers on pit lane. Sorry, Eric. Brian Chambliss on pit lane, Andrew Talganoff, Corey Steinhauser, Steve Turner, and more. So it looks like 45 laps in, we're starting our pit cycle.
I think they figured out how to break this race up. Looks like they're going to go 45 laps, pit again on lap 90, and then that'll be it for the end of the race. As you were mentioning, about lap 85 to 90 is where you'd want to come in, make that stop, and go to the end. And it looks like that's exactly the plan that these drivers have worked out for themselves. I'm a little bit surprised we don't see Cabot coming down pit lane, but he's got a bit of a lead to play with, so he can kind of take a little bit more time. He's got the speed. He can come in, have fresher tires than some of the other guys, and things will work out in his favor. But right now, just waiting for the stampede of cars onto pit lane now that we've already seen a few.
We've had about 10 drivers hit pit road, and we've got about 20 or so that have yet to come on down. And again, they sort of start rear forward, and then the leaders are always the last to pit to try to overcut the best they can. As Zach Halpern peels off, he's going to hit pit lane. The 29 of Ronis, aggressive. So is Reggie Ortega. The 31 of Bowers. I think behind him, that looks to be Eddie Trey. Nope, who is that? That's Matt Burgess in the number 12. They're all woeing down to pit road speed here, 45 miles an hour.
Yeah, and I think this is just the play. They're obviously pitting because it's about time to do so. Cabot in the 77, probably just knowing he's got the pace in him to hang out there, take the loss on the early run with the new tires when he does make the change, but that'll pay off in the long run for him, as this race seems to be a very green flag looking race. I'm not sure we're really expecting yellows at this point, as the 18 looks like he's struggled to get down pit lane. It's going to be interesting to see if he gets a speeding penalty there.
I think he got it down to speed. It looks like Eddie Trejo will as well. But you bring a good point that we've been green flag racing since the drop, and we know that ORL is generally a pretty green series, as it looks like Cabot thought about coming to pit lane, and he will come down this time. This is early. I didn't expect him to come down quite this soon. Oh, Stravato in behind him, really hot in. They're both going to get it mowed down. Was it too fast, maybe?
Not sure. It's going to be tricky to see.
Here's a look. Oh, that was pretty hot. He might have gotten it slowed down. We'll follow his pit stop here to see if he got a penalty.
Looking at the replay, I'm fairly certain Cabot was able to get down slow enough and not cross that second timing line to make it all work for him. But who knows if where that radar gun is going to catch you.
Well, let's see if he gets held longer than about 14 seconds. Pit stop looks to be complete, 15-0, and he's free and clear. So avoided the penalty that time. That might have been a little bit close for comfort. See AJ Stravato peel off. He might have made up ground, though, with the mistake that the 77 did make. And they're going to come off pit lane right one behind the other. And there goes Halpern around the outside, and Jeff Wright as well. So they made up ground again on new tires, about 2.5 seconds worth of fall off in pace. But again, I think the long game is the right one to play, especially with these laps that do take a long time, and we got a lot left, 90 to go.
Just look at the speed and tires that'll do for you with Cabot and Stravato.
And midst of the pit cycle, everyone's hoping it stays green and to not mess things up. So far, so good. Wanted to look at the weather information as well. Track temperature, 95 degrees. That's not cool, Eric, and that's going to help accelerate that tire wear.
Yeah, it's going to make the track really slippery, make it really hard to hang on to these tires. Even early in the run, I think they're probably not holding it as wide open or as close to wide open for as long as you might have expected coming into a freshly paved mile-and-a-half raceway with some decent amount of banking. But so far, they've been able to hang on to it, and it doesn't seem to be causing a problem.
Casey Lakatos is out of fuel, and he will come hit pit lane with no RPM turning in that car. Jeff Wright will reassume the lead with Halpern behind him. Brian Chambliss, Andrew Talganoff leapfrogging Cabot in the pit cycle, but that might only be for a short-term gain and a long-term loss.
So at this point, if you're Cabot, you're just wanting to run long enough to be able to retake the lead before yellow comes out so that you're not stuck in the middle of the top 10 here with a potential restart and come to pit lane where then things can get hairy. So right now everything's good as far as no one's going to get stuck a lap down. Pit stops have cycled through. But still, if you're the 77 and 33, you're definitely not wanting a yellow anytime soon until you're able to get back to the top 2 positions.
I think if you look at the way that we've raced so far, I don't expect to see any cautions probably for the rest of the race unless we get one, with maybe the 40 or 50 to go. That could start a chain of them. But the way this race is played out, I wouldn't really expect to see any yellows. So I don't think you can plan any sort of strategy around it. I think you just got to kind of roll with what you got. And this is where you start splitting races up like road courses, because in road racing here in iRacing, you don't have cautions, so you always plan your strategy around green flag racing, and I think that's what everyone's going to do.
Absolutely, and we are now 15 laps away, or about 15 laps away from halfway through this race. Not a hint of a yellow so far, so definitely cannot bank on one of those. But right now, Stravato is all over the back of Cabot, and I know he's going to be wanting to make sure to get ahead of Cabot before they even get back to the top 2 positions. To make Cabot's life a little bit harder, but can Stravato stay a little bit closer and a little bit more competitive on this run now that they're head-to-head rather than dealing with the other 2 cars of Halpern and the 48 of Jeff Wright as they were earlier in the race?
Again, in theory, this is the battle for the lead. Once the strategy all cycles out of this, the 77 and 33 have the newest tires of the front 5, so they should be able to charge through the field. They're about to catch Brian Chambliss in 3rd, and Zach Halpern and Jeff Wright are a couple seconds up the road. But if AJ Stravato can get by Cabot on these new tires, he'll be in good shape. I do think Cabot's the better car on the long run, though, so he better get up there and then try to conserve some tire if he can.
Cabot's about half a second quicker than Wright leading right now, with Stravato just behind him, just about as quick. Right there, another half second quicker were Cabot and Stravato over the 48 of Jeff Wright in the lead right now. So they'll get there. It's not going to be too long before they do. Right now, that 5-second gap may look a lot, but just a couple laps ago, it was just about 7 or more. So they've already cut in that lead a lot. They're just going to continue to do that. The tires are just going to continue to sway in that direction, and they're going to maintain some sort of gap. But where is the time where the tires equal out, regardless of how many laps that are under them? That's going to be what plays the key difference here. And I think we see Jeff Wright. He has the damage from being in the wall a little bit earlier tonight. He's the one who decided to come to pit lane first. He had to do something to change things up and try to make something happen, so can't take anything away from that. He's just thinking outside the box.
And looking at this car, again, he got in the wall a couple times early, but by the looks of it, it doesn't really look, and we're talking specifically, well, I was going to look at it, talking specifically about that damage right there on the right front. That's not huge damage, Eric, but it's certainly enough, and you're better off not having it. So I don't know how much it's really affecting him, but it's definitely not helping the 48 at speed right now, and the older tires are just going to make that even worse.
Yeah, it's enough that if I were driving the car, it would be the reason I blame that I didn't win.
Yeah.
So
Anything the drivers can do to take the blame off themselves are what they're going to try to do.
I mean, that's just how it goes.
Never my fault. As Jonathan Hernandez and Andrew Talganoff run 7th, 8th with Brandon Bowers, last week's winner, in 9th, and you also see behind them the 50 Casey Lakatos, who was a lap down. And again, he tried to stay out long and then ended up running the car out of fuel, and so we know that they cannot go Let's see, how many laps ago did he pit? 7 laps. So we know that they cannot go more than 53 laps on a stint of fuel. So they're going to split it up and do 45-45 and probably 50 to run the tank out of fuel to the end. So that's probably the strategy, as Halpern has got 2 hungry guys behind him for second.
Yeah, and this is going to be hard for Halpern to hold off, but he can make it difficult. He can cost them some time, maybe force them to use the tires a little more than they want to, but Cabot's already going to look to have a run down here down the backstretch into turn 3. We already know he's got that really low line entering turn 3. You see his turn in is so much earlier than anyone else's that he's around right now, and he's going to clear the 26 coming off of turn 4, or is he? No.
Got a little dicey there. And the 77, the way he turns in, not only is it an offensive move, it's a great defensive move too, because who's going to dare jam their nose up the inside of that when they know that he's going to turn across them down into turn 3? So I think Cabot's line is a really effective one. It's fast, and it's offensive and defensive at the same time. And AJ Stravato might have learned a thing or two, because he just did it to the 26 as well.
I know I'm taking notes on that line if I ever come to a race here, but very interesting that such a different line is being used out there, and no one else seems to have picked it up to be able to make it work. So Stravato seems to have just pulled it off there, or at least tried to, but it was not successful in his attempt. And now he's really got to get past Halpern as quickly as possible so that he does not lose touch with Cabot in the 77.
So what do you do if you're Jeff Wright in this 48 car? You did the undercut before. It got you the lead temporarily. We are clearly not really on schedule for any caution flags. What do you do now? Do you adjust your strategy? I mean, if you undercut again, the same thing will happen again, and you're going to end up down the order. So what do you do different now that you kind of made your bed? Do you have to lay in it, or is there something else you can do to get back out?
I think generally it's you just got to lay in it. I'm not sure how far back behind Cabot he was when he pit, but the goal would be that you're closer by the time you come to pit lane to the leader than you were when you pit the first time by, and then that gap will just grow on the other side of the pit stops. But I'm not sure that that's going to be the case in this situation, as we see a pack of cars come back together. Haven't seen this since earlier in the race. Looks like they're going to be 3 wide down the front stretch.
Bailey Turner in the middle of it, all the 4. David Mott Jr. is a lap down. Actually make that 7 laps down. He has hit pit lane for something. You see the damage on the right side of that car. The 42 is Zach Floyd on the outside. Bit of a squeeze there for Turner. And up the road, I believe, is Andrew Telganoff in the number 6, who has gotten back out in front of the 4. So Telganoff continues his crusade back forward. Bailey Turner and Zach Floyd all fighting for 8th spot. And I think Telganoff was one of the drivers that pit earlier in the cycle and might end up going backwards more than forwards here in the next couple laps.
Yeah, sure looks like it. Looks like they were maybe trying to use the 4 as a pick, but the 4 has the fresher tires, so he's able to run away from them, get by them, and not really make any trouble.
Working lap number 66 of 140 for the Outsider Racing League here on SimTV. The Daddy's Fried Chicken 140. Round number 6 of the 2020 fall season. Next week is Halloween. Trick or treat. We'll see you at Road Atlanta, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta on November 7th for our 7th round of the season. Our first time ever on SimTV, broadcasting stock cars from that facility, and there'll be a lot of fun. I think we'll have Finney DeCuna running that stream. I will be unavailable at NOLA Motorsports Park, or I might be there. I might be able to watch and commentate from, I'll have all my audio gear there. I'll be there for Grid Life in a couple of weeks. So excited to see that and how that'll turn out, as Andrew Telganoff is going to have to give up a spot here to Bailey Turner on the 24 and move the 24 up to 8th. And what's next on SimTV? Well, tomorrow nothing, but Monday we've got 3 wide Cold Hard Art Cup Series heading to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Tuesday, Lucas Oil Raceway Park for the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series. Wednesday, Washington, D.C. Region SCCA iRacing League from Donington National Circuit. It'll be myself, joined by 4-time IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge winner and 2-time TC America champion Tom O'Gorman will be joining me in the booth for those races. And then Thursday, Scars Ferrari Challenge. They'll head to Watkins Glen in upstate New York for their 3rd round of the season. So watch the 42 and 29 go at it here, Eric. Going to be a busy week coming ahead.
Yeah, really looking forward to this upcoming week on SimTV. Really looking forward to seeing what these cars do around Road Atlanta. I might have to dust off my Cup car and challenge myself to figure out how that car is going to drive around that circuit with these drivers. As Road America earlier this year was a lot of fun. Probably the best stock car road racing that I've ever been a part of with this league. So I'm excited to see what these guys can do around Road Atlanta in just a couple of weeks' time, with next week having off for Halloween. But I think we're seeing that battle for the lead close up. Half a second behind is Adam Cabot. and Stravato just a few tenths behind that. They're both catching Jeff Wright. Not by as much as earlier. Now they're only about 2 tenths quicker. 3 tenths for Stravato that last lap. So the times are coming back together. The tires are almost equaling out. That might work in Jeff Wright's favor, but still not sure his strategy of coming in a little bit earlier is going to be what pays off for him tonight. But he's still in with a fight for the top 5, and at this point, that's all you can really focus on until something changes in the way that this race is playing out.
Lap 71 of 140. What does that mean? Halfway here at Kentucky Motor Speedway. And as we approach that, that tells me that we are pretty much seen, or we have pretty much seen who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. But Adam Cabot has found Jeff Wright for that race lead. Here he comes, Eric, for the top spot.
Yeah, he's all over him. If he's not able to get it done through 1 and 2, I think he's going to have it down into turn 3. But he's looking underneath. He's going to get side by side with the 48. Can the 48 hold enough speed on that outside line to force the 77 down? He can't. Looks like Cabot's going to be able to clear him down the backstretch here. Stravato is now going to have a run on Wright into turn 3. Stravato going to use that Cabot line. Isn't able to hit it all that well, so he's not going to be able to complete the pass on Wright right now, but he's got to get by him as soon as possible in order to keep touch with the 77.
And looking down, the 48 and 33 again are in the Sad Boys Racing team camp, so they are teammates and might collaborate here a little bit to help each other out. But, oh, well, here the 33 is going to dive to the inside. Doesn't look like they're teammates right now, and through he goes into second.
Is he going to be able to clear him? I don't think so. Stravato's just a little bit too tight to make that work. Going to be side by side down the front stretch. Stravato looks like he might be able to complete the pass through 1 and 2, and he's really got to in order to keep Cabot from getting away too far. Completes him on entry into turn 1. Takes over second place by himself, and he's going to try to get back up to the bumper of the 77 and give Cabot something to think about for the rest of this run.
Back deeper in the field, a couple other battles going on the racetrack. Going back to Zach Floyd in the 42, chasing Ronas and Brandon Bowers in 12th and 11th. And Bryce Galusa, he has not had an amazing race today. After starting in second, he's dropped to about 10th spot and stayed there. But fighting with Andrew Telganoff here as Telganoff stays high, and the 20 car will go down the bottom.
Yeah, I've gotten to know Bryce a little bit now that he's been racing in the Scars Ferrari Challenge, and seeing him in a bit of a different light than I'm used to, turning left only, but he's been impressing on the right-handers as well. So,
well, I talked about that in Scars Ferrari Challenge the other day when Kalusa has been so good in Scars Ferrari Challenge, and he was the first one to admit that the road courses are not really his strong suit here in the stock cars. So I guess when he jumps in a GT3 car, it's like flipping a switch, but in the stock cars, doesn't quite have it sorted out yet. So I'm sure he'd like to transition some of his Ferrari Challenge success over to these big machines, but a very different process to make these things go fast around rights and lefts than a GT3 car.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to be surprised to find out he's been promoted to a pro road course driver over there in Scars after his performance for the first few weeks here and last season. But here we have Telganoff slow on the apron in 3 and 4.
I'm not sure
what happened to him.
Doesn't look like he has any damage. Oh, is there a tire down maybe? No, it doesn't look like it. So he hits
I can't
pit lane.
imagine that it's a tire.
No, no damage on this car. He's just pulling down pit road. So
he's only got 32 laps on those tires right now. I can't imagine that that's the problem.
Well, he'll come to pit lane. So interesting circumstances around the number 6. Jumping back up to the race lead, though, AJ Stravato has run down Adam Cabot. Now we got a battle on our hands here, Eric.
Yeah, it's really good to see. Stravato's not allowed Cabot to get away. The draft is definitely keeping him in there, but the question is the draft doing the work, or is Stravato just that good? We're just about maybe 10 to 15 laps away from the final round of stops for the day. So if you're Stravato, you got to be wondering, do I try to undercut? Do I try to overcut? What do I do to beat Cabot, who's been so strong here today?
I'm always wary of doing an undercut here, at a place where tires seem to matter quite so much. Again, we're about a second off, or actually make that 2 seconds off of our fastest pace. I think tires are important. Usually, I always dislike overcuts at tracks where the laps tick by really quickly. Like at Rockingham last week, I didn't really think the overcut was going to work just because the laps go by so fast. But here, the laps take a while. We've got a lot of them during a fuel run, so I think the overcut could work. Just got to do it by two to three laps, and that will be sufficient. But I also like following the 77 here just to see what he does, but he's not going to. For the race lead, AJ Stravato goes on by to 77.
80 laps into a green flag run here at ORL at Kentucky Motor Speedway, and we have a side-by-side battle for the lead between AJ Stravato and Adam Cabot.
If only real NASCAR was this good.
Well, you know.
That's what I always like about ORL is they take consistently what is a garbage racing package and they make something good out of it, which is hard to do. We've definitely seen it not be that way before. I think we had a race at Texas earlier this year that I think watching paint dry would have been more exhilarating. But they consistently surprise me with being able to. I mean, let's be honest. Texas is a lost cause. You can't make a race there any fun to watch. No. But this track, it seems to be like even though there's a lot of gaps throughout the field, with this many cars and this talented of a field, you still can have good battles. As we see here for 13th, Reggie Ortega and Eric Hutton going at it.
I think you saw in real life last week that all you need is the perfect randomly cold weather in Kansas, and the cars do their job when there's no tire wear or speed loss. So yeah, this package has a lot to be leaves a lot of people wanting.
That's the polite way to say it sucks.
Yeah, but this series seems to make the most out of it with how they approach it, and they make their custom fixed setups and everything. So I'm sure that goes a long way into helping the racing be as entertaining as it is in this series.
I'm still craving someone to run the COTs in a league. I feel like that'd be super fun. We did that for the SimTV League Showdown last year, and that was a really entertaining. If it didn't have so many crashes, it would have been really entertaining. But we were sticking people that had never raced ovals before in 900 horsepower low downforce monsters, which probably wasn't smart. But I think if you did that properly, now that you can put all sorts of decals on them, I think it'd be really fun. Here's a battle for third on the racetrack. Jeff Wright, Halpern, and now there's the 50 of Casey Lakatos, who's still a lap down. And Lakatos is probably miserable right now because he got himself a lap down after running out of fuel, and he hasn't had a caution to put himself back in contention, and he is no longer in the free pass position. That would be Caleb Weekly, who's about 1.2 seconds up the road.
Yeah, Lakatos really got things wrong on that opening stint of the race, and that's going to mess up his race all the way to the end, it seems, because I can't imagine we're going to get a rash of yellows here, as we're now about 5 to 10 laps away from the final rounds of pit stops happening. Checking in on our Dash for Cash, Stravato is second place. It looks like he's going to be the only one to even have a shot at that extra cash bonus, as Ortega in the number 2 is back in just 12th place, and Burgess is in 16th.
Yeah, and the 33, again, with the green lit up on the ticker, is eligible for a cash bonus, which is actually going up next year to $50, I believe, if you win a race under green flag conditions. Having a look at the racetrack, the track temp is rising, even though if you look down at the Speedway here, Eric, the track is covered in clouds, but the temperature that we put in the pavement is actually raising the track temp up more. So don't be deceived, as we have a driver down pit lane. That's Steve Turner. He was one of the first drivers to come earlier, and he will be one of the first drivers to come on this run as well.
Yeah, track temp going up. Stravato seems to be searching for a different line here. Not sure if that's a product of just trying to find a way to a different way to approach Cabot, or if he's struggling for grip to even keep pace, and he's just looking for a little bit extra to hang on to him right now. But he had that attempt a few laps ago, handful of laps ago, an attempt to get by Cabot, and since then, since that didn't work out, doesn't seem that he's had anything for him since. So it's possible he's waiting right now, just kind of potentially see if he can make the pass through the pit stop cycles. But I think if you have any opportunity of getting by Cabot, you have to do it as soon as you can.
He's right with him, and I think the opportunity would maybe be on the pit entry, maybe to charge up behind the 77 when they come down pit lane, Eric. Maybe that, I mean, we saw the 77 almost get a pit road speeding penalty. So if you put the pressure on Cabot there and make him make a mistake, that's a valuable asset that the AJ can use, is make Adam look in the mirror and charge the corner onto pit lane and maybe make him screw up and make your job even easier.
Yeah, I think they're both going to be completely on edge trying to make that happen when they do come to pit lane. And if they come together at the same time, it's just going to make it even worse. And who knows what's going to go wrong, or there's potential for something to go wrong there. But I think we're going to see them both probably smoking the tires, trying to get slowed down to pit road speed and push it as far as they can possibly push it in order to gain all that you can throughout the pit stop cycle. Stravato, like I said, looked like he was looking around for some different angles, some different grip on the racetrack, but seems to be back running in the tire tracks of the 77. Nowhere really to go, nowhere to really make up any ground, so they seem very equal cars right now.
Makes up a little bit of ground on exit, but sort of loses it in the mid-corner. And the draft not really effective enough for him to make up that car length or half a car length that he needs to get to the quarter panel to side draft here. So working lap number 90. Next time by will be 50 laps to go. As we go back to 12th place, here's Eric Hutton and Reggie Ortega getting really dicey off into turn 1.
Once again, we haven't really seen any battles just kind of fizzle out throughout the night. There's been constantly something to watch on track happen, and that's just a testament to the Outside of Racing League and their competition standards.
No caution so far in 91 laps. What are the chances we go caution free? I think that's pretty likely at this point.
I think it's likely. I think if you're in the car right now, you have to approach it that you're not going to get a yellow. There's no reason to think that you are. But as we know, all it takes is one car getting sideways, one car getting too tight, getting in the outside wall, and they lose it down the back stretch or the front stretch. And we've seen how easy it is for cars to find themselves in that position. So that's all it's going to take to get a yellow, and that could change the way that the race looks entirely. And I think that's why you might see these top two, with the lead that they have, a little bit hesitant to come in early, because they of anybody in the field are going to be the two guys that want to get caught a lap down, having just pitted when a yellow comes out. So they're going to be hesitant, I think, to come to pit lane before most of their competitors do.
We've had a couple drivers come hit pit lane. The most recent, Matthew Close in the number 92. See a little bit of right side damage on that HBR racing car. So he will hit pit lane. Eric Hutton and Reggie Ortega still fighting for 12th place. As you mentioned, they have not let each other go yet tonight. I'm not sure if they're trying to work together here. Maybe do a little bump draft, two-car tango style.
Either that or we missed something, and one of them's not happy about it.
Off of turn 2. Working lap number 93. Russell Arnold is going to hit pit lane in the 34 car, so he'll be another driver to come on down for the second stop. Other drivers that have already done so, Steve Turner, Ben Lafter, and Clifton Cockrell have all made their second stop of the day. So has Jeremy Miller.
We're now just about at 45 laps to go. These good drivers pit with around 45 laps into the run earlier on. 77 and 33, they kind of stayed out a couple laps later. Not really sure how much further they can push it. They got about maybe 6 or 7 laps based on when we saw Lakatos run out of fuel earlier tonight. So definitely within the next 5 to 7 laps, I think we're going to be seeing all these cars hit pit lane.
Brian Chambliss hits pit lane from inside the top 15. He will drop on down to 45 miles an hour, plus or minus 5. Adam Cabot and AJ Stravato still running nose to tail here. And again, I think AJ's best bet is to just try to screw up Adam's entry just enough to either gain some ground or make him get a penalty of some sort. 45 laps to go this time by. Alex Bell hits pit lane. Ooh, so does the 48. Big lock up there.
This guy's really pushing it tonight, getting to pit lane.
Brennan Bowers. Oh, the 88 also hot in.
These guys are pushing it. How hard do you think Stravato and Cabot are going to be pushing it when they come in, knowing that they've got the race win on the line?
I think Adam Cabot almost pushed it too hard last time. He almost got himself a penalty, so I think he might back it down a little bit. Stravato might see that he's going to back it down and try to take advantage of it. Again, I think we probably give these guys too much credit sometimes for maybe we're assuming that they're thinking about more than they actually are. And at the end of the day, I think AJ Stravato is just trying to go fast and might not be thinking about the pit entry and all that. But I'd like to think that there's some strategy going on here behind the scenes. Ooh, bit of a spook there with the car getting the lap back. That's the 46 car.
And here's the danger spot. You've already had some cars come down pit lane. There's going to be huge differences in speed, as we've just seen and continue to see right now on our screen. Huge difference in speed between the drivers that are out there on older tires and the ones that have just recently come down to pit lane. This is where you get that trouble spot. This is where you get somebody who's not sure that somebody's catching them as quick as they actually are, or somebody gaining too much time and they're not really sure how to react. Cabot looks like he was trying to protect the inside line. Maybe he's coming to pit lane this time by. We'll see what he does here coming through turn 4.
So AJ Stravato has lost some ground. He's lost a couple tenths of a second through all that. Zach Halpern, Angelo Ronis, Eddie Trejo on pit lane, and now we've got most of our field, 3/4 of it, have already made their final stop. The top 8 have yet to do it.
Yeah, these Cabot and Stravato, right now I think we're seeing the difference between the way that they've driven their cars really come into play. Cabot's coming to pit lane, so is Stravato. Let's see what happens here on the pit entry.
Whoa, he's hot in again.
Sideways.
The same thing he did the opening time, but look how all the time that Stravato gained on that. He's right there as well. It's going to be a pit stop duel to the end of this thing. 40 to go.
From what I can tell, they're both going to be clear on speeding penalties, but who gets out of the pit lane first?
AJ Stravato into the box. You got to get this perfect. Nicely done.
So who leaves first? Who got in their stall a little bit better than the other? Who's going to have a quicker pit stop? Who's going to have a quicker outlap?
14.5 and 14.8. That's going to hurt. And there goes the 77. It'll be almost be even. I think the 77 might have gained about a half a car length.
Yeah, definite gain there for Cabot. But who's going to push it harder through turns 1 and 2 here down on the apron before they're allowed to join, when you see the yellow line kind of start getting dotted there, and they're both clear of that violation. So here they go. And Stravato, as we saw earlier on in the run, he's got the speed to compete with Cabot, but once he gets to him, he's going to have to make the move quick.
Well, I think AJ Stravato's best friend is Zach Halpern here. Halpern had already made his pit stop, is in position in front of the 77. If Halpern holds up Adam Cabot, that's going to certainly change how quickly Stravato can run the 77 back down here. So let's give it a couple laps. We'll see how this all cycles. Alex Bell and Jeff Wright have also completed their final stop of the race. Bailey Turner just hit pit lane, so that puts Jeff Wright in the lead. Alex Bell going for it. You see Halpern behind, but all, again, pitted before the 77 and 33, who I think are on the best strategy for the end of this race.
Yeah, let's see. What's the gap back to Cabot? He's got 5. He's just over 5 seconds back from the 48 of Jeff Wright for the lead, and Alex Bell is all over Wright's rear bumper, trying to take that lead away.
Here he goes for the top spot. Can't fight this too much. You got guys behind you that are running you down, including Zach Halpern in the 26. 38 to go.
I think with that many laps left to go, there's really no hope that that Cabot and Stravato are not going to be able to overcome that 5-second difference there. The only hope that I think Wright and Bell and even Halpern have right now is if they were to get a yellow. Not sure we're going to see that. Haven't had any reason to think that we're going to see that right now, but that's basically what they're hoping for right now, so that they're able to maintain this lead and have the lead come down pit lane and stick Stravato and Cabot back in the pack.
Yeah, yellow would be hugely helpful in about 5 or 6 laps. I don't think you want it quite yet. The drivers behind you might not pit if that happens. But I think once you get 10 to 15 laps into the run, everyone's got to pit. As we come out of turn 2, Bell is still a little bit quicker than the 48. And here he goes to the inside as Adam Cabot is going to go to try to get by Halpern for third behind all this. And it looks like he's going to do that as these two run each other on the racetrack.
Really tight.
48 will dive to the apron on the front straightaway and pull back up. Bell gave it a shot, but just couldn't keep the car down there.
Yeah, he just got too tight, carried too much speed through 3 and 4 there, and you see Halpern middle of the corner back there. Oh no, I think I got that car wrong. I think Halpern's already been passed by Cabot and Stravato.
Yeah, Halpern, that's the 25 of Tim Downey Jr. Halpern's in the black and yellow 26 car tonight. The 25 you see up the road is 1 lap down from the race leaders.
So Stravato right now within striking distance of Cabot, and if he has the run, he's got to take it. He's got to be aggressive right now. You have to throw everything you can at Cabot. As soon as you have the opportunity to, you can't let him get the lead back and get that clean win.
And here's that battle for third right now. Actually make that second place. No, it is still for third, and with Wright and Bell out front. And again, this is why I talked about Adam Cabot's line into turn 3 being good, because it's offensive and defensive, and AJ Stravato's going to have to get really creative and chase him down the racetrack.
Stravato got through 3 and 4 really well there. He's got the run. Is he going to be able to make something happen down here in turns 1 and 2?
Try to go the long way around. I don't think the outside's going to be your friend. He's better in turn 4 for sure, but I don't know if he's better into turn number 3, which is really a great place to pass.
See just how much earlier Cabot turned into turn 3 right there, as we just saw looking back at Stravato.
But this is where Stravato gains, though. Stravato always gains exiting turn number 4. He just can't maintain that gain off into turn number 3. Now back up to the front. There's your battle for the lead. Wright's got it. Bell wants it. And the 36 of Joshua Banks, who was up front early, is now a lap down in 18th. We didn't really see what happened to him other than him getting shuffled out of the fray early on.
Looks like Bell, maybe not as strong right now, but he's all under attack from Joshua Banks, who must be laps down right now.
Yes. He is 1 lap down in 18th place. Big crossover move by the 48, and Bell goes for the line. Gets on the apron, though, and slips up the racetrack.
That's what happens with this package, as we were just talking about a little while ago. The run just kind of came out of nowhere. He had a pretty decent run off of turn 4, and then by the time they got down to turn 1, he had an opportunity to take a look.
Oof.
But Banks is all over his rear bumper, and that's not what you want if you're Alex Bell, to be able to just focus on trying to take the lead. But Banks, he's got his own race right now. He's got to get ahead of the 48, get back on the lead lap. You don't want to have to take the wave around if there is a yellow. Don't want to have to take the lucky dog wave around if there is a yellow. You want to be able to just race your way back onto the lead lap. That's going to set you up way better if there is a yellow right now.
30 laps to go next time by Alex Bell. He's got the distraction of the 36 behind him, and he's got the 48 out in front of him that he needs to run down. This is all happening about 8/10 of a second up the road from Adam Cabot, and you see the 77 creeping into the picture. 30 to go. Eric, they don't have enough time, or they have too much time, I should say. The 77 and 33 are coming in quickly.
Yeah, they're probably gonna make short work of them when they get there. The question is, who's going to get there first? Is it going to be Cabot or Stravato? Stravato is all over the rear end of Cabot right now. Looking like he's got a real opportunity to try to make something happen as they're coming up through traffic. And this is where you want to make something happen if you're Stravato. They're coming up on slower traffic. That's your opportunity to make something happen. If you can get Cabot to take the wrong line, get held up a little bit, and get a run on him, that's what you need to make happen right now if you're AJ Stravato.
Bell got tight out of turn 4, lost a bunch of ground to the race leader. Now he's going to sort of be accidentally playing rear gunner for the 48, so Jeff Wright's best friend is that 15. Now Bell slips, and here comes Cabot for second place.
Gonna make easy work of Bell, and Stravato's got to dig it in there, and he goes really hard into turn 3 and is able to make it work. He's going to be side by side down the front stretch, but I think he's going to be able to complete this pass through 1 and 2 if he can stay side by side on the entry into 1.
He should be through. Yes, he is. So move Stravato now to third place. And there's the race leader, Jeff Wright. Not long for this world up front because the 77 is flying. Was 2.5 tenths faster last time by and should make pretty short work of this 48. Here he goes.
Cabot's going to have a look down in turn 3 right now.
Coming to 25 laps to go, and Adam Cabot has been rock solid all night long. Comes out of turn number 4 this time through. He has led 39 laps. Will he lead his 40th? Not quite, but I imagine next time by will be that 40th lap led. And they have actually led exactly the same number of laps on this lap, 39 to 39. And now it's going to be 40 to 39 as Cabot clears, as Jeff Wright is going to get swallowed up by the 33 car now.
Wright just does not have the grip left in his tires. Stravato makes quick work. That's very important for him as far as his hopes to potentially run Cabot down. We saw it's only in the end of the run, the very last handful of laps, that Cabot is actually definitively better than Stravato. So Stravato still has a shot here. He's still close enough to get back up there using the draft and hitting the right marks. So this race is not over by any means, but Stravato's got to make something definitive happen as soon as he has the opportunity. And he can't wait, because the longer this run goes, the better 77 is going to be.
Bit of action back here for 7th, Jonathan Hernandez, and the 20 of Bryce Calusa. 16 of Clifton Cockrell, we haven't really talked about a whole lot tonight. He has found himself 11 laps down at some point in that nicely decorated number 16 Chevrolet Camaro. And I don't really see a lot of damage on this car. Maybe a bit of right side contact, but he has been buried down in the order all day, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's had the night that he was looking for. Running back down there that low in the standings. As we look back at Jonathan Hernandez on his rear bumper.
Half a second is the gap between Adam Cabot and AJ Stravato. The 64 Ben Lafter separating the two right now. As we close in on the final 20 laps of this race, about 12 minutes of racing to go. It's 11:11 here on the East Coast. Make a wish if you're superstitious, and I think AJ Stravato would wish for nothing more than a shot at getting by the 77.
Right now, Cabot was quicker than Stravato last lap. Let's see what happens this time by. Stravato's just over 0.2 back, quarter of a second behind. Gap's coming down the front stretch as we see Stravato has the better exit of turn 4 over Cabot. Stravato a little bit quicker, 31.339 to Cabot's 31.443. He's got to just keep doing that. He's got to inch his way closer, get within striking distance of Cabot.
We'll pull up the deltas here to keep an eye on these two, as they probably will trade this back and forth several times. You can compare here AJ Stravato, 1/10 faster last time by at the stripe. And this time through, will it be any better? That time was 19 thousandths slower, so we'll see this kind of go back and forth through the last 22 laps of this race.
These guys, they're just swapping opposite ends of the racetrack. Cabot is better through 1 and 2. Stravato better through 3 and 4. And they basically just end up equaling out most of the time. It's just that one particular lap that one of them gets a little bit off more than they're used to, and that's when the other one is able to make gains. So right now, Stravato's just got to be the one to hit his marks perfectly and hope that Cabot does not.
21 laps to go now as we head off into turn 1. For third place, there's a battle. Jeff Wright, Alex Bell going back at it, now for the lead this time, but for third. And this is a good run for Alex Bell, the race that he's sponsoring. And he's having a season best finish sizing up right now. But let's focus back on the lead because it's still close. 11 thousandths that way to Adam Cabot's advantage, but I don't think we're done yet.
Cabot a little bit low because of that left car on the outside, so that's going to help Stravato as he's way closer than he has been the last few laps. Under 0.2 now as they head towards turn 1.
Yeah, 66 thousandth gain, 20 laps to go from Kentucky.
A little bit like watching Harvick and Logano last week at Kansas, but I think right now Cabot's probably in the better seat right now because he can react to what Stravato's doing. The longer the run goes, his car is a little bit better, but Stravato's closer than he has been off of turn 4. Now he's well under 0.2 coming off of turn 4. Just going to be closer and closer as they get down to turn 1.
Took another 36 thousandths out of it. He's just stuck in this arrow wash. He's not quite close enough. We're not slowing down enough for him to just sail off in there and get a bump and run in either. He's going to have to get there the organic way.
Off turn 2. He's way better off the turn 2 this time than he has been recently. And here's a little bit of the advantage for Stravato running behind Cabot as much as he had all night. He's been able to kind of analyze what Cabot's doing and try different lines. He's gone to school for most of the night. Cabot hasn't really been able to do much other than, well, this is working, let me keep doing it. But if that means Stravato's been able to find something a little bit better, Cabot's not going to be able to respond very quickly, or he's going to have to try to figure out how to in a much less amount of time than they have available. Less than, wow, Stravato is just continuing to pull that gap down.
Running out of time. About 9 minutes worth of racing. Stravato is so close, but he's just taking thousandths out here and there. He needs to be taking tenths out. But he can do it all in one corner if he just sails it off in there, but he lost 22 thousandths that time. Gained it all back in turn 1. And is setting up for another turn 2 exit here.
If he can figure out how to beat Cabot off of turn 2 like he did a couple laps ago, that's going to be the key to getting him that run down the front stretch off of turn 4 that he's been looking for, as Cabot starts to open up that gap again.
Lap traffic to deal with. Is that 36 of Joshua Banks going to be a concern? I know that they had gotten by these two drivers before, but the tires are burning off on that 36 car. He might be in the way again for these drivers to have to deal with. So we'll keep keeping our eye on this comparison, but it looks like Cabot has stretched that gap out now to about 0.3 of a second as they come next time by to 15 laps to go. But now traffic to deal with for the race leader.
Yeah, I think Banks is going to pull over. You see, he goes way wide to let them go. He knows that these guys are racing for the win. He doesn't want to be a reason why one of them wins or loses, so he's just going to pull out of the way, be the good guy, let them settle it between themselves.
We'll check in on this battle a little bit later for 7th. Hernandez and Calusa still going at it. That's for 7th.
Calusa trying to end on a better note than he has been spent most of this race. From starting up front, falling back earlier on, now he seems to be pulling his way further towards the front of the field.
For 3rd, Jeff Wright and Alex Bell still fighting. Bailey Turner has worked his way up inside the top 5. And again, this will be a pretty good run for him. Zach Halpern has had a couple disappointing runs this year, and after starting in 3rd, I think he would have liked a top 5 run, but he's still in contention. Back up front, gap down to 1.5 tenths again. Stravato gained all that time back.
Yeah, Stravato found something that last lap, and he's got this good run off of turn 4. Almost got it down to 1/10 even as they head off into turn 1.
Gained a big gap there, 0.139 gain. And you saw all that time he gained on the front straightaway. And Cabot's getting a bit defensive now. You saw him run down on the apron even over that big bump we talked about. So he's feeling the pressure. But he got a pretty good run through 1 and 2. So Stravato will have to respond here with 12 laps to go.
Yeah, I'm seeing a little bit more movement out of the 77 through the corners than we have all night tonight. So I think he's pushing it a little bit harder. Stravato has a huge run. He's now able to get it under 1/10 going down into turn 1. He's making slight gains, but can he pull off the what he needs to be able to get side by side one of these laps going into turn 1?
You can see the gap is just about a car length and a half, and it shrinks a little bit on the straightaways each time. But Cabot gains in the mid corner. And see him, he's holding it tighter to the yellow line all the way through the corner, where Stravato's sort of late apexing like a road racer would. But across the line this time, is it a gain for the 33? Not quite. He loses a little bit that time through.
Stravato just needs to find a little bit something. They get to that 1/10 even buffer, and it just seems to be something that kind of pushes his car further back away from the 77, and then he's got to come back and try to make all that ground up again. I'm not sure he's going to be able to make something happen without a little bit of a misstep from the 77 of Adam Cabot.
10 laps to go, 15 miles from Kentucky Motor Speedway before the end of our 6th round of the 2020 season. We'll take a week off next week and be back for racing at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. But the battle right now between Adam Cabot and AJ Stravato. Stravato is the points leader. Cabot is definitely not. Cabot is buried in the points all the way down in 13th place, but he has won a race this season. Think back to Road America. Now, maybe road racing for Adam Cabot is where he needs to be. Think about Road Atlanta in 2 weeks' time, Eric. That'd be a great place to go back and solidify another road course victory. But imagine if he got a win here and then went and did that too. He'd bring himself right up inside the top 5 in the points.
Yeah, that's got to be somewhere in the back of his mind. I'm sure he's not really focused on it right now because he's just got to hit his marks and keep Stravato the almost 3/10 now that he is behind. As we mentioned, that Cabot's been better over the long run, so I think from here on out we might just see the gap increase. But yeah, Cabot's definitely got to have that in the back of his mind that he's going to a road course next week where he can potentially make even bigger gains in that championship.
And AJ Stravato for the longest time was cursed in Outsider Racing League. Just could not find a way to victory lane. They'd won a handful of times, I think 4 times last season, and was a constant threat every week. And he has been a threat this year. Obviously, he's been consistent, but he has not gotten a race win, and that's got to be bugging him just a little bit. He thought he got that monkey off his back, and he did for a short time. But once you start not winning, you start thinking, am I going to win again? And that's going to drive AJ Stravato crazy. 7 laps to go this time as we come across here at Kentucky. No battle behind him, at least for the race lead. It's just these two.
Stravato's made huge ground on that last lap. He's now back to just over, now he's just under 2/10 behind going through turns 1 and 2. 7 laps to go. He might have just falling back a little bit, cool his tires just a tiny bit, taking it a little easier and making another run at it here. And he's got to be trying something a little bit different each lap just to try to make up a little bit more ground every single time.
Think about this too. Look at the side of this 33 car on the number panel here, the green. That means that he will get an extra cash bonus for winning this race. And maybe that's not on your mind, but if it is, boy, I want that cash. I might go up there and knock that 30 or 77 out of the way, but he's not quite close enough to do it.
I mean, I'd send him I'd just send Cabot the $30 and take the win on the record for the season at this point.
So here's the other thing about a track like this. You go to a place like Darlington or Kansas or Chicagoland, anything that you run the high line more consistently. If the leader is running the high line, you can dive underneath and just chuck it down the inside and do the Dale Earnhardt slide job. But you can't do that here when everyone's running the bottom. So that kind of limits AJ Stravato's options here. You can't just go the shorter way around temporarily. You got to go the shorter way around and make it fast because that's where the line is here. 5 to go, coming to 4. Gap is 2/10.
Yeah, that's what we were talking a little bit earlier about the newly repaved 1.5 mile tracks. Particularly the SMI tracks like Texas and here Kentucky Motor Speedway. There's just not many options. They're very bottom feeder tracks right now. Well, in real life, the asphalt will age. That's really not going to be something that happens here in iRacing. So this is kind of what it's just going to be like. You got to make that bottom line work, and try to figure out if you're just not generally faster than the car ahead, it's going to be difficult to make anything up. On the older version of this racetrack with the older worn-out pavement and super bumpy, but maybe not necessarily a joy to drive, but the lines opened up throughout the race, and that's something that they just don't have to their advantage here tonight. But Stravato making another run at it as he's just over a tenth behind.
It's so close, but so far. 3 laps to go here from Kentucky. And AJ Stravato can taste it, but it's just he needs a little bit more. He needs a mistake, and he ran a little wide there on entry. That's going to cost him a couple tenths here.
Yeah, the banking just is not in his favor to make that a little bit wider entry work. This track does not have, I don't believe it has the progressive banking that would have made that worked out to his advantage on the exit of the corner by holding it a little bit wider. So right now he's just got to do what he's done a few times as far as cutting down that gap, but he's just got to do it better.
Adam Cabot in the 77 as he comes out at turn number 4. This will be a caution-free race from Kentucky for the Outsider Racing League across the line. White flag waves. One more lap around, 1.5 miles for Adam Cabot to pick up his second victory on the season. He was back at Daytona earlier in the year where he finished 5th after being contender there, then went to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin at Road America, the National Park of Speed. He won that race. Then went to Darlington, had a horrible race there, ended up finishing 23rd. Second last week at Rockingham, almost won, big dive by the 33.
Whoa.
Couldn't get there, took a swipe at him, but Adam Cabot will come out at turn number 4. Second win at the season, Road America, and now Kentucky. And AJ Stravato gave it everything he could.
I was not even expecting that. He tried to Carl Edwards that one.
I told you it doesn't work at low-line tracks.
No, it didn't, but he gave it all he had,
Ooh.
trying to pick up that extra $30, but wasn't able to get it done as Calusa is around in turn 1 after the finish.
For 10th, we had a 50,000th of a second differential. Wow, that was close. How about that? For 10th spot as they came across the line, Angelo Ronis and Eric Hutton. Here's that differential as they came across. And that was pretty dicey. All right, well, here's a look at your race results. And as Adam Cabot, well, let's watch him celebrate here first.
Very impressive run by Cabot all night tonight. Dominant car.
Ooh,
Made it all work.
Doing burnout down pit lane. That's a little dangerous as he brings it home from 11th to 1st. His second win of the season. His other one coming at Road America earlier this year. And he is celebrating. And I would be very, very afraid if I was anybody else heading into Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta in 2 weeks' time. I think he's the favorite going in there as well. Well, here's a look at your race results. Well, green from start to finish. I can't say I'm surprised. I can say that it was a pretty solid race up at the front. For some drivers, I think one of the drivers we were looking at that didn't really have a very good race was Joshua Banks. He started up front, didn't finish very well, and Andrew Telganoff just pulled off, finished dead last. Not exactly sure why, but he will finish 31st.
Yeah, and he was in it pretty late in the race, so that just goes to show you that the quality of this field, that 31 cars were still running that late into the race to make that happen.
We'll be back in just a moment. We'll talk with your race winner and more in just a few minutes. Hang tight. Welcome back live to SimTV for the Outsider Racing League 6th round of the season. The Daddy's Fried Chicken 140. And the sponsor of this race, Alex Bell, is finished 4th tonight. A really strong run after starting in 10th spot. You ran up through the field to finish inside the top 5. Take us through the night and battling there at the end with Jeff Wright.
Yeah, tell you what, man, I'm used to the old Kentucky. This new Kentucky is super freaking hard to pass. You had to work for about everything. So, amazed it went caution free. I feel like if we could have had some cautions there, we, obviously with the restarts being way more aggressive on those restarts, we could have gotten some more spots, but I'll take it. It was a clean race. It was a great race. Man, I can't say enough about Jeff Wright, man. This is multiple times this season we've raced for spots inside the top 5 or even for wins late in these things, and it's always brings out the best in us, it seems like. But yeah, really fun. Really glad we came to my home track and put up a good finish.
Alex Bell, 10th to 4th, fastest lap too. 29.479 was the quickest one this race. So congrats on that, Alex. We'll see you in 2 weeks at Road Atlanta.
Sounds good. Yes, sir.
All right, we'll move on now to Jeff Wright, finished in 3rd, the number 48. Tried some strategy, didn't quite work for the win, but it did get you a top 5 result. And this is the right direction for you, Jeff. As we head to Road Atlanta in 2 weeks, probably a nice track for you to go to with the road experience. 3rd place night from 1st to 3rd. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I feel good about the finish for sure. Anytime coming to Kentucky, I'll take a top 5 any day of the week. So we qualified on pole, so that was really good for us. Got some bonus points tonight with the pole position, and then led a handful of laps. Not as much as Adam. He was really on it tonight. Him and AJ were both just really stellar tonight. And then we led the halfway point as well. So really good points tonight for us. And awesome to debut the new paint scheme. Doug Denise Designs actually designed that, so big shout out to him. But yeah, looking forward to the road course here coming up here in a week. We usually do pretty well there. A lot of fun racing Alex Bell tonight. I think this is probably the 2nd week in a row where we've been racing, door to door and racing really clean. So it was a lot of fun tonight, but man, it was sure hard to pass.
Yeah, tricky to pass, but 1st to 3rd for Jeff Wright brings it home inside the top 5. Congrats. We'll see you. Good luck at Road Atlanta.
Thanks, man. I want to give a quick shout out to the team, SBR. All I do. Also the team guys, Reggie Ortega, Andrew Telganoff, and then Sean Alcorn in Hastings, Nebraska. Appreciate him watching as always.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Moving on now to AJ Stravato, who finished 2nd place tonight. So close, but so far. Half a second back at the end. That was the biggest gap you had in the last 50 laps. You were right there, took a swipe at him, but couldn't quite get it. Points leader still, but Dash for Cash just out of reach. AJ, bring us through those last 30 or 40 laps.
Yeah, man, that was a lot of fun to an extent, because you really couldn't pass. I'm sure you guys kind of saw that on the broadcast. It was really frustrating because you set up these runs, and I was, kind of diamond in 3 and 4 because Cabot was just so good there in 3 and 4, and I just couldn't get the line. I kind of regret not taking a couple of passing opportunities because obviously Cabot and I are sad boy teammates, so we wanted to kind of stay behind and manage the gap and just catch the guys on older tires and settle it from there. But sometimes you got to be a little bit aggressive and yeah.
Well, in 2 weeks we had to Road Atlanta, then we had to Chicagoland, which might be more similar to this. To the next 2 weeks, Road Atlanta, Chicagoland, which one are you looking more forward to? The new challenge at the track in Brazelton, Georgia, or the slipping and sliding there on a hot track maybe in Chicago?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to both. I love road course racing, and I think it's a strong suit of mine, especially the past year. I've been really working hard on improving my road racing ability, and Chicago is one of my favorite mile and a half. So definitely looking forward to that. I know we won the last race at Chicago, and that was a Dash for Cash race. So really wish we could have gotten it done today. That'd have been cool to bring home a little bit of money, and my dog did pass yesterday, so that'd have been cool to have a little cool livery on there. But it is what it is, and I'm just glad all my teammates could get a top 5 run, and Cabot could bring home some money. He's a great guy and one of close friends, so glad he could bring it home, and we made it as entertaining as he possibly could.
Well, second place for AJ. Sorry about the woofy, buddy. We'll see you next week. We'll actually make that 2 weeks at Road Atlanta.
Thank you, brother. Great broadcast.
Thank you. And we're going to talk now with our race winner, Adam Cabot. The first win came earlier in the season on a road course of all places, but this time on Kentucky. Held off AJ Stravato. He did not lead a single lap tonight with the impressive defense he had going on there. Totally different line through 3 and 4 that we saw you use all night long. Take us through that battle, charging through all the traffic and the strategy and all the green flag racing. Tell us about your night.
Yeah, really, it was actually pretty uneventful up until the last corner, the last lap. I was I was just like coasting into turn 3, not even thinking he was close enough to think about making a move. And all of a sudden, I look in my mirror and I see him coming at what feels like 50 miles an hour faster. I'm like, oh crap! I just floored it, and he barely missed my back bumper, and that would have been interesting if he got to me. But yeah, I mean, it was a really tight setup, so it was all really just about saving the right front, and clean air isn't that big of a deal, or as big of a deal as it used to be in this car with this package. But just the clean air coupled with having a car that you really had to save the right front, it was hard to overcome that, especially for him being behind me there. I would kind of just try to save the right front, and he would get close to me, and I'd be like, all right, I know I need to pick it up the next corner or two, and I'd run a little bit harder, gap him a little bit, and that kind of was what seemed like a cycle that repeated itself pretty much the entire race. But yeah, the line I was taking in 3 and 4, that was really just to save tires. I knew if I took a shallow entrance and shallow exit and used a bit more brake than I think people were using, that for whatever reason that saves tires. I don't know if that actually even makes sense in real life. Maybe it does, but it worked for me tonight.
Adam Cabot's second win of the season, Road America, and now Kentucky. Good luck to you going to another road course in 2 weeks' time. Good luck out there.
All right, appreciate it.
And with that, that'll end the interviews here tonight, Eric. So one thing I want to talk about before we head off is that road course coming up on the schedule, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. The reason why I'm so curious about how that's going to go is because Jeff Wright in the past has been sort of the road course dominating driver. In the past couple seasons, he has not really been up there, and I think I figured out why. Every time I go to a road course that has sort of been figured out, like Watkins Glen or Sonoma, it seems like Jeff Wright runs okay. Every time we go to a road course that no one's been to in a while or has never been to before, we went to Silverstone in a past season, he always seems to have something figured out more than everyone else does. So I think going to a new place that most people have never been to before, that's definitely going to play into the favor of Jeff Wright in 2 weeks. But Eric, your final thoughts here on the Kentucky race. Some pretty good solid action up front, but your thoughts on Kentucky and looking forward to Road Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were kind of careful about how much we mentioned, but I don't think either one of us are typically a fan of this racetrack. But we weren't really short of things to talk about and battles to follow. So anytime you can come away with it from any racetrack with a full 140 laps and it was green the entire way, which is really impressive. And we were never really bored because there was always a battle to show, something to talk about happening. I think you got to take it as a success. And just move on to the next one. And yes, I'm also very very curious what these cars are going to race like at Road Atlanta. You know, there's that big uphill turn 1 leading into turns 2 and 3 in the S's, and I think that's going to be really interesting to see how drivers handle having a completely blind corner that a lot of them might not be used to at all. As you mentioned, when you go to Watkins Glen or Sonoma, these are tracks that NASCAR has been running at for years and years and years. They've existed in NASCAR games for years. Everybody is kind of familiar with them, even if road racing isn't their preferred method of racing. But when you get to these more out there road courses that make their way onto the NASCAR schedule and the ORL schedule, that's where you're going to start seeing the real difference between the guys who spend time turning right on a regular basis and those who typically stick to the oval side of things. So definitely look for a bit maybe further spread in competition next week or next race that they got. But I'm expecting there's going to be a few guys that are able to hit it off the bat and give us a good race.
Well, thanks, Eric, for joining me. That was a pretty entertaining Kentucky race, despite, as you mentioned, not really our favorite racetrack on the schedule. But one of my favorite racetracks ever in the world is coming up in 2 weeks. We'll see you there from Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. My name's Kyle Heyer with Eric Mickey. We'll see you next time.